always right in the face of adversity, in the face of all the facts that people try to throw at me.
It's the Common Man Program, weekdays at 1 on 740 The Fan.
It is time to bring on the television play-by-play voice of the legendary Dick Bremer, Jack Michaels, Derek Hanson. And last time we spoke with Dick, I think we were talking about Rooker or Garlic. And it looks like it's Garlic. Good afternoon. How you doing, Dick? Good to have you on board today.
Yeah, we're anxious to get things going here. Ryan Garlic, not many people knew much about him before spring training, but he certainly made a name for himself, leading the team in home runs and runs batted in, and lo and behold, he's going to be in the outfield mix and the DH mix maybe as well for the Twins.
I think the other thing we were talking about was not only Garlic, but I think at the time we talked last week, Kirilloff was still in the mix, and then he wasn't. That was crazy.
Yeah, well, he still, I think, is going to be the primary left fielder for the Twins. He did not have a good spring. If Garlic had the Kirilloff spring training, and if Kirilloff had the Garlic spring training, I think we'd probably be promoting Alex Kirilloff for Rookie of the Year. He's a really good player. He's going to be a really good player, but he'll start the season at the alternate site. And it's important, I think, for Twins fans to be aware of this. There won't be games for these guys. They're just going to be working out. The AAA season, as well as the other levels of the minor leagues, are going to get started late this year. So it's not like Kirilloff is going to tear the cover off the ball at AAA and get a call up. He's just going to have to practice and try to keep his swing sharp.
Kirilloff went 4 for 31 this spring. If you do the numbers, I think that's around 129 on this. But, Dick, aren't even some Hall of Famers stories all started with 4 for 31 in a spring training game? Well, you know what I mean, right? It's littered with stories like that.
Yeah, and, okay, what he ended up hitting, 160 or whatever, and ended up being twice of Max Kepler's batting average. Max didn't have a good spring either, but when somebody's done it at this level as Max has, you can just kind of look the other way and not think too much of it. But when you're a prospect and you've got an opportunity to make an impression, and then there's the service time issues and all that come into play, he'll start the year not with the big league club, but I suspect by Memorial Day for sure he'll probably be with the club.
Were there any other surprises with the 26-man roster? And I'm still trying to get used to saying that, the 26-man roster, that as far as 13 pitchers or anything else that shocked you?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure until the very end that Caleb Thielbar was going to make it, but because he got off to a slow start. Rich Hill got off to Jay Happ got off to a slow start. He had with the COVID positive test and got a late start, but I think all in all it was a good camp for the Twins just because it was a full camp, a reasonably healthy camp, and twice as long as the camp, if you want to call it that everybody threw together to get a season started late last year.
I would love to start a new segment and have millions of sponsors and pay Dick Bremer 3 times as much money as he makes currently now. If we start a segment called Dick Predicts, Derek, you ready? Dick Predicts. I looked at the Minnesota Twins season records and have a Dick Predicts segment. So the season record for batting average, unless I'm wrong, is Rod Carew hit 388, 1977.
Right.
Is it safe in 2021 in our Dick Predicts segment? 388.
No one will hit 388 for the Twins this year. I feel quite confident in saying that.
All right. Derek, you concur?
I do. And I know as much as Mr. Bremer loves Luis Rise, I don't think he'll get to that point.
Okay, the home run record, Twins home run record, of course, Harmon Killebrew, 49. Is 49 safe in our Dick Predict segment, do you think?
Well, I'm not less sure about that, to be honest with you. I don't know yet about the ballistics of the 2021 baseball yet. We don't know for sure how this ball is going to work. But the one guy who stands out is Miguel Sano. I mean, he's so incredibly powerful. It wouldn't surprise me at all to have him have a 50 home run season. Now we'd like, the strikeouts to be cut down and all that, but it's they had a lot of really some of the top power hitters, plural, in the game 2 years ago, and not so much last year. So we'll see how the season plays out. The one thing that I think a lot of people are going to be looking at is the baseball that's going to be used this year, and how it's going to fly and how many home runs will be hit. But I think, as we talked about it last week, we're going to have some cold weather games too early on. So let's not jump to an early conclusion about how lively the ball is this year.
All right, I got a couple more on our Dick Predict segment, and he nailed the strikeouts, by the way. Miguel Sano does own that record, 178, but who cares, I guess, this day and age now, Dick? Apparently nobody cares if you strike out. If that fourth at bat, you can drive a couple of runs in, I guess, too. All right, Dick predicts the Minnesota Twins single-season record for runs by one Chuck Knobloch, 1996, where Chuck Knobloch scored 140 runs. What about 140 runs scored in a regular season for the Twins?
Yeah, of course, Knobloch was the type of player that, frankly, doesn't exist much in baseball anymore. And even Knobloch, when he went to New York, tried to hit home runs. But Knobloch was an on-base guy, a base stealer. I still think there's a place in the game for that. But I don't know anybody in the Twins roster or even in the organization who's that type of player. There's so few of them in baseball these days. 140 runs is an awful lot of runs. Let's just hope that there's one or two that might get to 100.
This is going to be an easy no at our last one for Dick Predict segment here. Stolen bases. You got to go back to 1912, Dick. Clyde Milan, and I hope I pronounced that name right, stole 88 bases in 1912. That's an easy no, right, Dick? That's still safe.
Yeah, the stolen base. Hopefully he's going to make a bit of a comeback this year. But it's a power game right now, and the one guy, of course, who could steal a lot of bases, Byron Buxton, didn't steal much last year. I'll be curious how aggressive he is on the bases. At one point, I think he had 21 straight steals. So he has the ability, the talent there, and baseball at the minor league level is doing what it can to bring back the stolen base. Because it's a very exciting style of play. Base running and base stealing have kind of given way to the power game, but we'll see how many stolen bases. The Twins don't have too many guys that have blazing speed, but Buxton certainly is one of those.
Yeah, you mentioned it, going back to the last question, too, is, a rise I jokingly said before, but he is a guy who can get on base a lot. He's not going to steal as much, maybe, but Buxton will be. Does Buxton need to be more patient at the plate, take more walks to get to that point? Because I think both of them could really get the stolen bases and runs to maybe challenge that record if they did.
Yeah, I think the Twins have a couple of players that hopefully will be a little more diligent about trying to increase walks and cut down on the strikeouts. Miguel Sano being one of them, and Buxton the other one. And it's really important for Byron to try to improve his on-base percentage, because I can tell you, other teams just have nightmares about, when he is on the bases, because he can, score from first on a single. He can get, first to third on pretty much any hit to the outfield. The game changes when he's on the bases. So if we start seeing Byron taking a few more walks, improving his on-base percentage, I think it'll go a long way towards him emerging as one of the better players in the game.
Notice, Dick, I didn't bring up Walter Johnson's 36 wins in 1913. I think,
yeah, that's safe. Yeah.
Hey, a few years ago, we were hoping the team won 36 games.
Let me ask you a little bit about one thing that we talked about in the offseason is the universal DH, and I was kind of hoping for it, and selfishly as a Twins fan, because I think it's a huge disadvantage for the Twins to open up on the road at a National League team for the one, interleague series here and not have Nelson Cruz in the lineup right away.
Well, and then, the biggest concern for all American League teams is someone doing something that they're not accustomed to doing and getting injured in the process. Now, it's easy for me to say because I'm not paying the guy's salary. I think there's less concern about Kenta Maeda, who, of course, came to the Twins from the Dodgers and hit a lot, but he didn't hit at all last year. And that's the scary thing for me, guys, that even the National League pitchers last year didn't hit. And now, it's like anything else. If you haven't done something for a year, and now you try to do it. I don't care how many years you've been hitting, if you're Kershaw or Scherzer or any of these guys, right? They didn't do it last year, and now you're going to ask them to use muscles and motions that they didn't use for a while. I think that's a really big concern for a lot of baseball people, and I think it's a huge mistake for baseball to not, after last year, come back with a universal DH this year.
A couple minutes remaining with Dick Bremer today. The Minnesota Twins open up their season on the road at Milwaukee in a trip to Detroit. They eventually will return home for their home opener on the 8th against the Seattle. And oftentimes, and I know it's a team game, Dick, but oftentimes we ask the question, as blank, and we'll give you two, as blank and blank go, so go the Minnesota Twins. And I'd hate to narrow this down to just a couple of players. It's a team game. You have pitching staffs, and there's so many parts to this because oftentimes we'd ask that question to fans, and they'd say, as Byron Buxton goes, so goes the Minnesota Twins. So I'll throw it at you. Pick a couple, maybe even position groups if you want, or individuals. As blank and blank go, so will the Minnesota Twins.
Well, because pitching is such a variable, particularly relief pitching, I'll focus on the position players. And I'll tell you that the two key players for me are Byron Buxton and Nelson Cruz. Byron, because I think this Twins team could emerge as one of the best teams in Major League Baseball if he is healthy, and he has not been, particularly at the end of the year when the Twins really need, that extra spark, if you will, for the postseason. And the other one, and he looked fine in spring training. But you got to remember, Nelson Cruz is 40 years old. He's going to turn 41 in the middle of this season, and as good as he is, he's not going to go forever. And that was one of the issues I know in bringing him back. He felt he was worth a 2-year deal from the Twins or whomever, and it's not like it used to be where teams are more interested now on spending money up front in a player's career than on the backside. And so this guy is 40 years old, and he may hit .310 this year and hit 40 home runs and drive in 120. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But at some point, the production's going to wane, and I think the Twins are counting very heavily that the production doesn't wane for Nelson Cruz. He means so much in the middle of that lineup.
I like it.
We have a text message that came in at 35270, and if you do want to give Dick a quick call here, 237-3767. Derek, we would have lost Cruz if we have the universal DH. I would say that is a possibility, obviously, but I also think he may have wanted to come back to the Twins. It's just that the Twins would have had to pony up more. Is that safe to say, Dick?
Yeah, and the reason if they'd had the universal DH, the thought goes, there would have been twice as many teams with all the National League teams that would be interested in bringing him aboard, and there would have been more competitive offers. That naturally follows. But I do believe that he would have given, even under those circumstances, the Twins an opportunity to match whatever offers he had, because I really, truly believe that it's only been 2 years, but he's found a home here in Minnesota. He fits in well. He's really enjoyed his time in Minnesota. And if someone had offered a second year and the Twins weren't willing to go there, then yeah, there was a real good chance that he would have gone. But I do think he would have come back to the Twins and say, hey, here's what I got. Can you match it? And then it would have been up to the Twins to decide whether to give him a second year or not.
I totally agree with that. As much as leverage as he may have had, use the word leverage, I really like Dick's response on that. Dick, a few years ago when Seattle opened up at Target Field, Challenger, the bald eagle, who was tremendous in his pre-flight practice, landed on, and I the name escaped, but I think it was James Paxton.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Okay, so the question today, and of all the pageantry of a season opener, and it'll be the home opener for Milwaukee, and then yours will be on the 8th. Have you ever seen anything like that, where a bald eagle flew on somebody's back on all the pageantry of opening day?
And Paxton's back with the Mariners, so there's a chance he may get the start again on opening day and not appear until it's time for him to pitch in the bottom of the first inning. But no, I've not ever seen that before, and I told him when I saw him, I don't think later in that homestand, maybe later when I saw him, that I really admired the fact that he did not do what I think just about everybody else would have done, which would have been to, shoo the bird away and,
right, freak out, yeah.
An angry eagle. I don't think we'd want the beak or the talons anywhere near our eyes, but he held his composure miraculously.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I guess my question for you, speaking of opening day, is I think, and I heard Corey mention this on the radio broadcast, are you guys still going to be remote from Target Field for a little while here, or?
Yeah, we won't be traveling at least at the start of the year. The hope is as the vaccines get more popular and more readily available to people and the teams, the players themselves get vaccinated, that we might be able to do what we enjoy doing, and that is actually being there, for the opening days and every game. It does complicate things for us. We understand why, and we're on board with it. Everybody for all 30 teams, we're all going to do the very best we can. But there's really nothing like actually being at a game and announcing it. And, announcers in other sports have had to deal with it too. But the hope is that as, we kind of crawl out of this awful pandemic that we've been dealing with now for more than 12 months, that as we do that and we return to a more normal lifestyle, that eventually the announcers will be able to go on the road as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a shame, though. This is so weird. I will never get used to not calling that retractable roof stadium Miller Park. I mean, how fitting. Beer, Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Everything.
I mean, Laverne and Shirley.
All
now
of
it's
it.
American. That's the one bad part about corporate sponsorships is they may change. I hope it's Target Field forever for many different reasons, but I'm
going to differ with you there because I would prefer that a regional bank that happens to spell its name Bremer. Might step in and get the naming rights to Target Field whenever the contract ends. I just think that'd be cool.
And I think we have our new sponsor for Dick Predicts. I think that it all comes full circle.
It's not going to be just Jefferson Lines anymore.
Yeah, Jefferson Lines.
I like that a lot. And honestly, this is a weird thing to talk about, but I kind of liked if they would have had the money to do it. Land O'Lakes, if they would have come up, because that's kind of fits the area here, but Target's so synonymous with this area too.
Well, Derek, if you got a couple $100 million,
yeah, right.
Brandon Woodruff on the mound for Milwaukee, right, Dick? I believe that it is Woodruff and Maeda on Thursday.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it, and I hope this makes sense. Last year we didn't have opening days. We had first games. This is going to be opening day. This is going to be more like what we've all grown accustomed to. We've all dealt with, among other things, the Minnesota, North Dakota winters and all that, the pandemic and all that. For me, this is really going to be opening day on Thursday, and then the home opener the following. We really didn't have that last year. We just started a schedule, and it didn't seem like opening day. And this year, I suspect it will. We'll have fans in the ballpark in Milwaukee on Thursday, and we'll have fans at Target Field the following Thursday, and it's just going to seem a whole lot more real, I think, for everybody.
Oh, just gave me goosebumps.
It's good stuff. American Family Field is where they'll be getting underway. Dick, outstanding. Can't wait to see you and get this season underway. Thank you so much, Dick. Appreciate the time.
Next Tuesday, we'll have some games to talk about.
Yes, that's what we'd like to hear. He is Dick Bremer, brought to you by Jefferson Lines. See, Derek, I got the sponsor in there. You like how he did that?